Hi everyone, Sandman here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Jamie, and he wanted me to talk about why men have a foot fetish. I told him that I would briefly discuss that before moving on to a different subject. So believe it or not, I've said this many times before, and the thing is that men are most attracted to boobs, bums, feet, and actually penises. That's what science says, and it probably explains why there are guys out there into trannies. When a man sees small feet, for whatever reason it turns him on, probably because of neoteny. Smaller feet equal youth, and the younger a woman is, the more attractive she is to the man because of her reproductive voodoo powers. Think of all those women back in mainland China that used to bind their feet into extremely tiny shoes. They couldn't even walk because of their tiny deformed feet, and that was the point. Because the smaller her feet were, the less work she probably had to do around the house, and therefore the wealthier her family of origin was, or the family she married into. Jamie, I hope that briefly covers up this issue as to why guys have foot fetishes. 3 things: youth, breeding, and wealth. So with that, I'm going to move on to a different topic which you'll also find interesting as well. It's from a woman named Schahrzad Morgan, and it's a video promoting her book called The Fuck List, a sex memoir where she attempts to explain why women don't like sex from her point of view. Originally, I was going to use her video as a mystery link, but actually after seeing it, I decided that it warrants a response. I didn't want to put any clips of her video in because I didn't want to get a strike for that, but it doesn't mean that I can't criticize what she has to say. So why does Miss Morgan make the case that women don't want to have sex? First, she says that the sex that women have is oftentimes really bad because it's men's fault. She then says that 1/3 of women out there are abused by men or sexually assaulted at some point in their lives. So that's another reason why they don't like to have sex. Men's fault yet again. But this is just feminist propaganda. Then she goes on to say that women don't like sex because the sex they've had was not pleasurable. Again, the fault of the guy because according to her, it's the man's responsibility to make sure that the sex is pleasurable in the first place. She says her mom didn't like sex because she thinks her dad wasn't very good in bed. How does she even know that? Because her stepmother said that her father doesn't kiss her. How inappropriate is it sharing such private things with your own stepdaughter? And it's kind of gross. Miss Morgan then says that women that have never been made love to properly won't enjoy sex, and that husbands are fumbling in the bedroom. So after all of this man-shaming for a few minutes, she then says that it's women's responsibility too to make the bedroom experience good, but she doesn't offer any information or solutions as to how women should do that. She just goes on to shaming men. She then objectifies men and even says that we're like spoiled hamburgers, and that's what sex is really like for some women, like eating spoiled hamburgers. She then goes on to say that there are some men out there that don't like sex either, but in that case it's actually the man's own sexual dysfunctions that are keeping him from having intercourse. She blames him for his own sexual dysfunctions. She also says that some of these men were abused as children. You'd think at this point that she'd be saying that it wasn't his fault, but again it's probably another man's fault for abusing them in the first place. Everyone is blaming men according to this woman. Even the one point where she says that it's a woman's fault too sometimes, she offers 0 explanations. If women don't like sex, were abused, or never had good sex to begin with, then it's men's fault. She then blames the female body itself, careful not to mention that it might be a woman's fault at some point. She separates the female body from the mind and says that women don't like to have sex because of their bodies, periods, bloating, cramping, or when they're actually worried about getting pregnant. That's what she blames her body and not herself yet again. Remember guys, that no matter what happens to a woman, it's never going to be her fault. She says that if a guy can't please her, she doesn't actually want to have sex. She goes on to talk about how she had a sleepover and turned down a guy that basically wanted to sleep with her right there in her bed. He came up behind her and apparently he wasn't alpha enough the way that he came up behind her and grabbed her. But apparently he was alpha enough to be invited into her bedroom to begin with. She says his approach didn't feel right. He was being courteous and trying to see if she was interested instead of just grabbing her and already having a hot and ready cock. He needs wolf energy in him to make her want him, she said. Those are her words, and she says that you gotta keep it hot. What she's saying here has nothing to do with a guy being able to have good sex with her. Good sex also has desire and passion according to her. Of course the woman wants to be desired because she knows the man is easy to control in that case. If the man is unsure about being with her, that means she doesn't have complete control over him and isn't making him lose his rational mind, so the manipulation can't begin or continue. I really thought at the end of the video she wasn't going to cover what the main reasons are that women don't want to actually have sex. But according to her, a man that's good in bed doesn't get consent, he just goes out and touches her without permission. A question I would love to ask her is, how does a guy become good in bed if you don't give him a chance in the first place? If women expect all men to be Don Juan in the bedroom, then that means the guy needs to have slept around with many other women and practiced his game and performance and perfected it for her before ever meeting her. This woman is a gift that keeps on giving. She also made another video called I Won't Fuck Men Again Who Deliver Low Performance, where she talks about how she dumps men that are bad in bed. Again, it's the man's fault that she doesn't actually give men a reason why they should be better or what they're doing wrong. As for women not wanting sex, I find that women in their late teens and early 20s love them some cock. It's the older women I find in their late 20s and early 30s and above that start losing their sex drives. Seemingly, it's no longer about pleasure and procreation so much as it's a chore to keep the man around, and that's why they don't actually like it, and end up resenting the man in the end. In the olden days, when a woman was in her late 20s and early 30s, she usually had half a dozen buns that she popped out of her oven, and now the bakery is closed. The third video I'm sharing down below is Miss Morgan, again, and this one is called Honor of Having a Man Ejaculate on My Face. After her rant about women not wanting to have sex, she discusses how it's an honor to have the ejaculate on her face from a young 22-year-old guy named Brandon. She even brags that it's on her face as she's making the video. Later on, I found out that this woman has 3 children, and I'm guessing that at least one of those kids is the same age, if not much older than Brandon, because she's 53 years of age. She also made another video called Stop Trying to Repress My Free Sex Speech, and I don't recommend that you watch that one. I'm still suffering from seeing this 50-something-year-old woman in a bikini dancing around. With over 10,000 followers, I'm sure that her kids know that Mama is whoring it up on YouTube so she can sell copies of her new book. She doesn't seem to care about embarrassing her kids, herself, and probably her ex-husband with her escapades because she looks like she's been sexually repressed and is a man-hater because whenever something goes wrong with a woman and she doesn't like sex, it's the man's fault. In all honesty, how good of a lover could this 22-year-old Brandon guy be in the first place? Miss Morgan talks a lot about women not wanting to have sex, but I'm sure that regardless of if they're bloated or on their period or he's a terrible lover, she's still going to sleep with a youthful young guy with vigor. Women want to pretend that they're more noble than men and pretend that looks and youth don't matter, but when they do, it's just really rare that they admit to it. I've seen 40 or 50-something-year-old women run off with guys in their 20s before, like they're girls in their teen years. These guys make them feel young, so that's the reason that women actually want sex, to feel young again and rekindle their youth. Women don't like routine sex, they want to have something exciting, different, creative, with the thrill of getting caught doing something they aren't supposed to be doing. They want to have sex on a rooftop, on a green in the golf course in the middle of the night, or possibly in the backseat of a car where there's a constant threat of being discovered. It absolutely thrills them thinking that someone is watching them from a distance, from the cold, hard darkness. Having sex the same way in the same bed over and over again is too boring for most women. They want to be taken in the most non-routine and unexpected ways, and then run off to their friends, or basically if they don't have any friends, then run onto YouTube to tell the world, like Miss Morgan, about their adventures in Spermland. Sometimes the sex isn't even that good, but the fantasy about where it's happening is what gets them excited, and they get to share their story and make other women jealous, and that's a turn on as well. So there you are, having sex with them in a creative way, and they aren't even thinking about being turned on by the sex itself, but instead all they're thinking about is how they will take their friends and make them jealous about what they're going through. Your body is just their prop, and what they really want is your mind to come up with perverse scenarios to turn them on. The problem with doing that is the more you do it, the more they actually expect you to do it in the future. Even when you want to make sex elaborate and fun with oils or possibly even glow-in-the-dark paints or something else, they often say that they actually enjoy it. But in the end, when you actually do it, they often do a double take and start thinking that it's not such a good idea after all. What I find they really want is for you to not suggest and plan the idea, but just spring it on them and not give them a chance to say no and back away from it. I could easily write a book on all the creative ways to spice up your sex life by taking certain actions to do so. Women would read the material and then complain to their boyfriends because they haven't read my book yet. It's true that women want good sex or sex with younger muscle-bound men with lots of enthusiasm. They don't want it to be routine and feel like a chore, and regardless how much they say they want a guy to cuddle with them, they really don't. Even if you service her and make her have a good time and she finishes you off with an orgasm, she's going to resent you for wanting to fall asleep shortly thereafter. You make it about her and satisfy her, and then she makes it about you. And you're happy, and she once again makes it about her and how you aren't paying enough attention to her even when you did. You spend 20 minutes on giving her an orgasm first, and then she spends 10 minutes on yours, and then she shames you for not giving her attention after the fact. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. I know a woman in her 40s that's in a relationship with a man in his 20s, and she's happier than ever. She's getting her pipes clean because, for her, the status of having a young hot guy that she can show off to friends on Facebook makes them jealous, and she basically loves it. The guy's also no doubt eager and into her, and he's somewhat successful and has youth status, so she wins out. She's also the closest woman I've ever met to being into Walt. And I find these women that don't appear to be like the rest, including Karen Strawn and a few others that I've met personally, are often with younger men. Looks like the older unicorns seek out the younger black stallions and can basically keep them because they're less crazy than all the other women out there. A woman with a more rational mind than other women seems to add 10 to 15 years to her sexual marketplace value. Maybe that's why fat chicks have actually needed to foster nice personalities to get laid in the past. Today, however, they apparently have feminism for that, so they don't need to be nice anymore. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again, Jamie, for your donation, and I hope you enjoyed me roasting Schahrzad Morgan for being a hypocrite. Saying that women don't want to have sex and then being happy about how she got the ejaculate of a 22-year-old boy on her face is just wrong. Don't forget to smash the like button and check out the MGTOW mystery link. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the granny bukkake away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.